This episode for Daredevil Born Again may have just set up one of the most dangerous seasons that we have seen before, because everybody is now having to pick sides, and Daredevil looks to be at the center of it all. And that ending, yeah, we need to talk about it. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Nerds of the Multiverse channel. So this episode kicks off with Daredevil boarding the Northern Star cargo ship and capsizing it, putting himself already at the beginning of the season at the center of this massive incident. Meanwhile, Fisk uses this moment to push the narrative that Daredevil is a terrorist, and he tightens his grip on the city of New York. At the same time, we have Karen and Matt working from the shadows. We have new players stepping in, like Mr. Charles, who's played by Matthew Lillard. And we also have multiple storylines that are building towards something much bigger, especially that final scene involving, yes, Bullseye. So, first off, this episode did a lot right. That opening scene on the cargo ship, it felt like it was straight out of Captain America the Winter Soldier when he boards the ship at the very beginning of that film. It also reminded myself a lot of Daredevil Season 1 when Matt is in his first costume and he is on the docks getting information, and all of that worked perfectly, especially with this season. It was pretty cool to see. There's immediate tension. Obviously, we get to see the Shadowland black suit for the first time ever in live action, which was beautiful. Get to see the double D's. Proud. Oh my gosh. And something else that's beautiful about this season so far is the aspect ratio changing on the screen whenever Matt's senses are heightened and he's listening extra intently. Like it's like, and zooms in. Oh, it was beautiful. Beautiful camera works. So the opening of this show set the bar pretty high. As far as the tone and the world building for this season, this episode really starts off with the political tension and propaganda building up. We have the BB report, which seems to be pushing Fisk's narrative at one point, but then later on, it looks like it's being used to expose Fisk's crimes. And I don't know who's behind that. Possibly Mr. Charles. Maybe. Who? Maybe. What if it's Foggy? Oh, new theory just unlocked right now. We'll talk about that later. We have Fisk. He's manipulating public perception, and he makes it seem like everybody's happy with what he's done by outlawing vigilantes. The anti-vigilante task force is now escalating things a ton. They're tracking everybody down. They're putting them in cages. And it just makes this world feel a whole lot bigger and more dangerous. There's also a lot of layered storytelling that's happening right now. There are so many different storylines that are going on right now, but they all feel connected, and that's beautiful. It's very well written. That's something that I've always praised Daredevil for. It has some of the best writing. I still think the Netflix show has the best writing, especially compared to Season 1, but we'll see with what Season 2 is picking up. It looks pretty good so far, because obviously we have the Karen and Matt sabotage angle and whoever else they're working with. We have Fisk and Mr. Charles and the CIA connection of him working with Langley. And we have Heather Glenn's psychological spiral, which I just did a video recently about her becoming the next Muse. And that's looking like it's possibly happening. So make sure to watch that video if you have not already. So what does not work for this show so far for me? We're only one episode in, but this is kind of a problem that I have from Season 1 that has continued already to this upcoming season. And myself, personally, it's the language. It's just not my thing. And I think it's gotten a lot worse because, you know, when they were on the Netflix era, which is hard to believe, they weren't dropping F-bombs and they weren't saying stuff like that. Now, they still took the Lord's name in vain, which I'm not a big fan of. I'm a Christian and I'm just not for that. But I'm not about the language. I'm probably going to complain about it every week. It's just not for me. But that's my biggest complaint about the entire show is I wish that they could cut that out a little bit. Truthfully, it pulls me out of the experience a little bit. Standout moments. We have to talk about that ending. Because obviously we have the anti-vigilante task force showing up to Cherry's apartment. They're there to get information, see what he's been up to, why he's looking into people, and all the information that he's looking into for the captain and the first mate of the Northern Star. So they're there. They attack him. They start beating him up, interrogating him. And that's when Matt shows up. And Matt starts beating the crap out of all of them. But in the middle of all of that, Cherry begins to have a heart attack. And Matt starts remembering what happened to Foggy. He started hearing Foggy's heartbeat when Foggy was dying. He started hearing Cherry's heartbeat as he was having the heart attack. And he lost his step. And then they take him down. And not only do they take him down, they unmask him. Matt gets unmasked in this very first episode by the AVTF. that's not it. Because it looks like all hope is lost. It looks like they're going to take him into custody, and we are just going to see him in prison for like a lot of this. No. That is when several bullets start flying into the room. All of the AVTF men are taken out, and then there is a knife that ricochets off the wall, hits the floor right in front of where Matt is. Now, obviously he can't see it, but on the knife it is written, "You're welcome," and in the middle of it is the Bullseye logo. We're getting a team up between Bullseye and Daredevil, which we knew from the pictures, but this is how it starts. And it's really a very powerful callback to Season 3. This episode is obviously entitled The Northern Star, which is the boat. But that has another meaning behind it, because in Season 3, Dex's psychologist, she was talking to him about how he needed a North Star to guide him through his life, to keep him grounded. And that was his psychologist, and then she passed away, and then later, and he joined the FBI, and that was his. And then all of a sudden, it started getting corrupted again. And then he found Julie, who he was in love with, and she ends up dying. And then it was Fisk, and after Fisk, he hasn't really had a Northern Star. He went to prison, and that's been it. But now it seems that he has chosen a new Northern Star, with that being Daredevil himself. And that changes everything. Character spotlight. I think the character spotlight for this episode has to be Heather Glenn, because Heather might be the most interesting character right now. We know a lot about Matt. We know a lot about Fisk. We kind of already know them. There's a lot going on with Heather, because she's starting to see these visions of Muse, and it looks like she's kind of in a trance. She starts altering her psychological reports. There was this scene because Prosecutor Hochberg, he calls her and asks, "Oh, can you change some of the data to make the swordsman look more incriminating so we can send them here?" And she's like, "Oh, yeah." And then it goes to a flashback of when she's interrogating him, and she asked him the question. She's like, "I at times feel possessed by evil spirits." And he said, "No." He said, "That's false." So she wrote false on there, but she changes her report. But it's really her who could possibly be possessed by an evil spirit, being Muse, because if you have not already watched the video we put out, that's a possibility. But we talked about this. We talked about whether it's going to be a supernatural like possession of Heather, or maybe she's just going to be dealing with the trauma. It's going to be more psychological based, and she snaps and she becomes obsessed with Muse, and she starts to follow him and what he did in his work, and she becomes the next Muse, becoming obsessed. So we don't know which one it's going to be yet, but I think the fact that it kind of alluded to, sometimes I feel possessed by evil spirits, that's a possibility, especially because Mephisto was just introduced into the MCU last year. That's a very big possibility that that's what's happening to Heather, and she could be possessed by Muse, and he's working through her. And we have the supernatural era of the MCU showing up after the multiverse saga. We have the mutant/cosmic saga, but it's also the supernatural era where the Midnight Suns and everybody's showing up. So that's a possibility as well. But Heather right now is a character to watch. And like I mentioned, if you've not already watched this video, make sure you go do so. I think another character that you really do have to continue to watch, though, this season is Wilson Fisk, because Fisk seems to be operating on a whole nother level this season. He's controlling the narratives, as he always does, but he's also now influencing the government, and that is kind of connected to Valentina Allegra de Fontaine, who was in the Thunderbolts last year, who we know is running the new Avengers, but she's working behind the scenes. She's still high up in government. Mr. Charles appears to be working with her, and she has the Attorney General on a leash, because he was there to take down Fisk's plan for the anti-vigilante task force and all that stuff, because Fisk wasn't collaborating with him. But then he got one phone call that Mr. Charles said, "You better answer that," and all of a sudden, Fisk is fine. So he's manipulating the government, and it seems to be that Val is helping out. So that's kind of crazy to see those two teaming up. It's like an unstoppable force. So let's talk some theories and what could be next for the show. This episode sets up some huge possibilities. Obviously, we know Jessica Jones is showing up this season, but she may have gotten teased in this first episode, because Matt and Karen are talking, and they're talking about getting information, especially about the captain and the first mate. Well, there's a point where Matt tells Karen, he's like, "Oh yeah, go ahead and give her a call, get this information." And it kind of just feels like that's a direct setup for Jessica Jones. Like, yeah, she's going to get the dirt on somebody, she's going to deliver it to Karen, and she's doing her PI stuff behind the scenes. So I think she was teased already. She's going to be showing up. We already know it. Probably in episode 2 or 3, which we're getting both this week. Awesome. Heather being Muse, that's still the theory that I believe. The way that she's seeing Muse and reality is altering and basically she's rewriting truth. I do think that the theory video that I made the other day has a lot of possibility, a lot of potential to become true. So Heather becoming Muse is also the theory. So Jessica's showing up, got Heather becoming Muse, but also Bullseye's new purpose. Because if Daredevil is now Bullseye's North Star, he's not just a villain anymore. He is now a weapon that is pointed straight at Fisk. And we know that they're going to team up at some point. Whether that partnership lasts, probably not. We'll have to wait and see. But they are both going to align to take down a common enemy. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. That is exactly what's happening this season. And Bullseye actor Wilson Bethel even talked about this. Dex kind of has a renewed purpose, and he's on a redemption arc. Whether or not anybody else reviews it as, oh, this is like a righteous redemption, nobody probably does. But in his mind, it is. So, pretty cool. But the biggest question, the biggest mystery still about this season is, who is Mr. Charles really? Because Fisk's, it almost seems like Fisk gave him that name. And, Vanessa alludes to, oh, if that's your actual name. I don't think it's his actual name. I don't know who he's going to be yet, but he has the CIA ties. He works for Valentina. He does not fear Fisk whatsoever, and he might just be the most dangerous player on the entire board. So, definitely want to know who Mr. Charles is. My biggest question so far about the season. Overall, if I was giving a score out of 10 for this particular episode so far, I would give it a solid 9.5 out of 10. It's not just a strong premiere. It sets up multiple storylines that has the potential to reshape the entire season itself and really improve the Frankenstein put together, jumbled up concoction of what season 1 was, which ended up still being fine, but this has a potential to kind of boost it up. So that is what I think so far about this episode. But I want to hear from you guys. What did you think about this episode? And who do you think Mr. Charles really is? I am going to be covering this weekly. We're going to be doing weekly breakdowns / reactions / reviews of this season. So episodes 2 and 3 will be coming out later this week. I'm sorry I got this one out so late. Getting back from vacation, getting back into the groove of making content. But I hope you guys enjoyed it. But make sure that if you want to see more reviews for this, make sure you hit the subscribe button and turn on post notifications so you never miss an upload. If you did enjoy this video, please leave a like. And if you want to see more Marvel content such as news, rankings, theories, lore videos, gaming videos, breakdowns, and more outside of these, also make sure you hit the subscribe button. And if you have not already subscribed to the Nerd Bros Podcast YouTube channel, make sure you do so. It's a podcast between myself and the Nerds of Ren. It's Marvel, it's Star Wars, it's DC, and it is every Tuesday night. And you guys do not want to miss it because it is a good time. And we do it for you guys. So make sure you guys subscribe to that channel as well. But with all of that being said, I love you 3000. And I will see you in the next video.